Hello, MGTOW. Hello, men. This is Howard Dare. Thanks for stopping by. So, I want to talk to you about something very important because I believe it underlies much of what we speak about here in MGTOW. What I'm talking about here is emotional authoritarianism, right? Now, we see the entitled Karens, we see the entitled women, and we think that we're dealing with this in the moment emotional upheaval. But I think there's much more to it. And I think this will shed light on a lot of the issues within MGTOW. So what I think is going on here is that the women, most of the women, not all the women, men do this as well, have no way to relate to the world except through their emotional responses. In other words, something happens, maybe, boyfriend breaks up with her or says something insulting to her. And the emotional impact of it is so strong, such a spike, that it's no longer an intellectual, rational kind of decision. It's an emotional response that then needs to bring some reason and intellect to implement like a kind of revenge or a kind of like one-upmanship or one woman, whatever. One-upmanship, competition. And I believe that this is mostly like their entire way of interacting with the world as an emotional response. And this isn't so hard to imagine. We think with words, right? We have words for all kinds of things. But the truth is, the words are just placeholders. They're like poker chips for emotions. That is, you can imagine people communicating just fine without using words. Grunts, smiles, nods, gestures, sounds, intimidating posture, right? Now, you've all experienced somebody using, emotional authoritarianism over you. They're pitching a fit. And perhaps you're trying to calm them down. Perhaps you're trying to reason with them, and they're just not hearing it. They're just not going to listen to it. And, you get the feeling that, okay, we've just got to back off on this one for a little while. Maybe they'll cool off. Maybe they won't. And we see a lot of trouble, a lot of violence, a lot of destructive behavior, a lot of ugly things said in this moment of passion. Right? Heck, we even have the idea that we're going to excuse violent crime, with this idea of temporary insanity, which basically being overwhelmed by emotion. You've got the experience, right? You've experienced it from men. You've experienced it from women. You've had people who use this and play this card all the time. And you have people who don't, who very rarely, give in to, these types of emotions. So that when they do, you kind of know it's pretty serious. But it's deeper than that. This is like a frightened animal lashing out or an aggressive animal just trying to dominate and intimidate and humiliate, right? Domination through intimidation and humiliation. Understand that this interaction, it's a visceral reaction. It's not like people are necessarily planning this stuff out. You've hurt their feelings and they're reacting. And they're reacting with overwhelming emotionality. Simple enough, perfectly understandable. Maybe you accidentally break something that somebody else values and they get pissed. They get angry. Maybe you cut somebody off or they cut you off on the road and you're pissed. They could have killed you. Their carelessness. How dare they? But we're talking about something more here. We're talking about taking a world that men have built through sacrifice, but mostly through logic and reason, the application of a detachment from their feelings, from their emotions, in order to pursue a very complicated subject, physical science, understand it, master it, and then use it. This is how we built our world. This is why you have roads. This is why you have technology. This is why you can hear me speaking right now, because we built these things. And women can build these things too. It's just not as natural. It's just not as innate within. So what is the coin of our realm? How will you make your way as a man in the world? And unless you're like a fighter or a professional athlete in some way, and even then, it's not being done on emotion, right? Imagine how the woman is looking at the world. She's actually using her beauty, her attractiveness, to attract somebody. You're saying, big deal, Howard. Yeah, that's pretty obvious. This is how deep we go. But seriously, what is it you think is going on there? Right? Because for the man, I don't think he wants to know. I think he simply wants to give in to that very feeling, to be in love, to imagine himself as loved, to give love, and then imagine himself thereby as worthy of receiving love. But what's really going on there? It's an addiction. It's a craving. It's an urge. It's this desire for this emotional appeasement. And what the woman is looking for the most part, is to get the man addicted to her emotional approval, which will open the gates for her affection. No, the man just loves the woman. Or does he love instead the oxytocin that he feels within his own system once this whole process is triggered? I wonder where the man gets that desire, for that level of interaction, this kind of emotional approval. He gets it from his mother, because that's exactly what's happening. The mother is bonding emotionally to the baby. This is why the Reese's monkey experiment is so illustrative of what's going on here. This is the experiment where the infant monkey is separated from another cage, and the other cage is open, and it's a metal mother, but she has a bottle, right? So the infant monkey goes to the metal mother and drinks from the bottle, and he enjoys that. He appreciates that. And this habit, this routine is repeated, okay? Maybe the metal mother has a soft blanket wrapped around her that he can cuddle up against and get some milk. Good deal, right? I would like some of that right now. Very hungry. But then the experiment changes, and they take the soft blanket away. And now it's just a sharp metal, thing holding the milk bottle. The monkey's still going to it. Now you're thinking, well, yeah, but he's only going for the milk, right? No. Now they take the milk away. They do it for a while like that. They build up the habit. Now they take the milk away. Guess what? The infant monkey is still going over into the other cage and trying to cuddle with this metal mother. It's chasing the dragon. It is addicted to the very emotional response that this seeming of affection triggers within him. So now you're thinking, well, just bad habits, right? Just bad memories, right? No, because actually, you know what they would do first? They would turn the milk sour. Exactly. You would turn the milk sour. Then you would take the milk away completely. Now it's just a metal thing that the infant monkey is going to, okay? Now you let it give electrical shocks, okay? And the infant monkey is still going to it. Does he love the metal mother? That's a strange word, isn't it? He's certainly chasing that emotional feeling process that he gets from the idea of this loving, caretaking mother, right? What if the women are perfectly well aware of this? And whenever the man is coming to her and being like, hey, how you doing? What's up? There's my game. She's thinking much more along the lines of, say, a drug dealer. Like, I don't really feel his commitment, his willingness to sacrifice. And so she might say something like, I don't know. I just feel like you don't really care about our relationship. So now he's jumping through hoops. He's like, come on, baby, what's wrong? I'll take you out. I'll do this. I really do care about you. And she's withholding this approval. She's withholding this affection. She's actually acting hurt herself. So the man's trying to use logic and reason to deal with this whole situation. He's trying to buy her off, right? But she's cold. So the man keeps jumping through hoops, and she keeps letting him jump through hoops. As a matter of fact, she sets up more and more hoops, lets you and him fight. So-and-so disrespected me. Do you think I look good in this? Notice that this is all a kind of emotional keep away, where she is withholding her affection, she is withholding her approval, and she is making the man demonstrate to the degree that he is willing to abase himself. I've told you the story about the man I met who was there's the subjugating man. Everything interacting with him, like a woman might say, oh, damn, I got to go home and do all my laundry. And he would just jump right in and say, you want me to come do it for you? And he meant it. So whatever there was that needed to be done, no matter how degrading, no matter how belittling, no matter how unappreciated, this guy was offering to do it. I found it, kind of disgusting. I found it kind of upsetting. I had him as a roommate. And he and I, we just couldn't get along because I wanted to be left alone, maybe researching some content, maybe making some content focused on my activities. It got so bad, we were going to the gym on a regular basis. He would try to follow me around the gym, a place where I'm pretty comfortable because I spent a lot of time there growing up. And he would try to give me advice on how to lift and things like that. And, even though I'm MGTOW, right? If I'm in a gym and there's a bunch of attractive women around, I don't need some weak, mealy mouth, supplicating male creature. Just the health was all gone. There's no physical stature, nothing like following me around the gym. You know what I mean? Like that's not going to work for my whole ego, personality, motivation situation. I'm polite, I'm respectful, I'm kind, and somebody like that can get the fuck away from me, especially when I'm trying to work out. What I'm suggesting is that in this pursuit of this female affection, he had completely subjugated himself and destroyed his own identity. He actually felt that his sacrifice, unrequested, was the currency by which he could win affection and approval. And I'm suggesting to you that it's merely an oxytocin addiction, okay? He just wants to feel a certain way that he can only get from kind of female affection and female approval. And he's just willing to pawn everything in his life in order to get that. And, to him, that's the definition of a real man. And you can see this when, we talk about MGTOW subjects and things like that. Some of the younger guys, some of the older guys are like, what? Does this mean you just don't like women anymore? Well, that just means more for me, okay? So there's no talking to this guy. There's no explaining to him that, okay, she marries you, she loves you, she's going to sleep with you for a few years, but she's going to get tired of you. You're going to run out of money. She's going to find somebody else who's more appealing to her with more money, and you're going to find out exactly what you're really worth to her. And the man can't even understand this. He can't even process this information. It's like, nope, I'm just going to go along with my instinct to chase after that woman, win her approval, and then I'm a real man. Get it? He can't be a real man unless the women are approving of him. Now, what I'm suggesting to you is that she is perfectly aware of his addiction. She is controlling his addiction. As a matter of fact, the reason why she doesn't like you or red-pilled MGTOW Sigma man is because he sees through this bullshit, okay? She can't get him hooked on her emotional approval. Now, I've been using this in a kind of positive way, emotional approval, okay? But there's more to this, because let's say you want to drive up the value of the woman wants to drive up her value of her emotional approval. How's she going to do this? Good job, Johnny. Okay. No, what she's going to do, and I've told this to you guys before. Okay. You figure out what somebody wants, you withhold it, and you only give it in so much as what they give you what you want. Okay. It's pretty simple power stuff. It's a simple power dynamic. Okay. What I'm saying is that she is perfectly aware of this male need for female approval. And unless she can find a sucker who's willing to subjugate himself, to belittle himself, okay, she's not going to give it. So that's the test. Those are the hoops that you're jumping through. But again, it's worse. She's trying to get the man addicted. One of the ways to do this is by withholding all of that affection, withholding all of that approval. So now, does the statement that men are toxic have some additional meaning to you? Why women would project this outward, okay? Why you should always validate her feelings. Why you don't have to justify her emotions. But if you lose your temper, okay, or if you go too far as a man, you're going to jail. They're calling the police. And guess who's coming down on you? The other men. And you know this, right? Because they want to win her approval too. They're going to protect the little lady from bad men like you. Of course, what they don't understand is that the woman is casting all men as the bad men, because this increases the value, the effectiveness of her emotional approval, right? It gets worse. Because now we're just stuck in a cycle of abuse. That man that I spoke of, he'll never come out of this. He's gone already. You know what I mean? He's probably still alive, but physically, mentally, psychologically, he has destroyed his own identity. He has no identity. Look at the men who mock MGTOW. This just means there's more women for me. Good luck getting together with one decent woman. You know what I mean? It's not going to happen. Not for him. He's going to get together with a woman. She's going to see how addicted he is. She's going to play him. And until she's played him out, as soon as she's played him out or she's got a better game to play, he's done. And there's no affection. There's no love. There's none of that stuff. Grow up. This is almost like a reverse Cinderella situation. And it's not just as simple as she doesn't love the man. She loves what he can do for her, and his resources. It's deeper than that. This is a psychological and emotional game that's going on all the time. And the man puts himself in there because she's so pretty, because the woman is so pretty. Men are not this cruel to women. What I'm suggesting is that if the men try to fulfill their biological function, pretty much what they're driven to do, genetically, biologically, she has him. She really does have him. Like a spider, has her web. He is wrapped up, and she's going to wrap him up in that silken cocoon and suck the blood right out, suck all the resources out. And the man is smiling, thinking that like he's getting a good deal in the whole situation, right? This is what he really wants. This is his real life's purpose. No doubt it's a biological drive, an instinct, an urge, but in order to fulfill that function, that urge, she is going to extract maximum value. And that is going to require the destruction of the man's identity itself. Again, you can see this in the men who mock the idea of MGTOW, because what they're suggesting is that there is nothing more important in life than female approval, female affection. That's it. And you see this when you see a decent looking man out with a really ugly woman, right? Now, if you want, catch these on Saturday and Sunday morning. Yes. Saturday morning, you'll see, a decent looking, healthy man, going out and getting coffee the morning after, with the chubby, unattractive woman, right? Now, hopefully he kind of knows what he's doing. Hopefully he's aware and he's, basically going to hit the road, right? Like hopefully he's not entranced with her, right? Yeah. The advantage of, if you were hiring a prostitute, to hire one that's not so pretty, so you don't feel intimidated and you certainly don't feel like the need to like desperately go back, right? Don't date pretty women because you won't be able to trust yourself. I'm joking around, but I'm suggesting that there is no such thing anymore as a good man, as a societal idea of a good man. Indeed, they have created the idea that all men are toxic. And this goes to their son. This goes to their brothers. This goes to their friends. In her world, where emotion is the coin of the realm, there can be no such thing as a good man. And in order to win this type of a woman, she's going to need to see that you have become addicted to her affection. And the way that this process can work throughout society for our gynocentric system is if all the women play along. You see what I mean? It's kind of like crossing the picket line. If any of the women start to act like decent human beings towards the men, it's like, well, the game is up. It's over. Now the regular, scumbag, low value woman can't use it to control and to extract resources from the high value man. And he's not going to be jumping through hoops to go after her. This is the environment that the boys are growing up in, that we live in. All of our media reflects this. She can cry at any given moment, but you cannot lose your temper. She can be overcome with emotion and yell and scream. You better not do anything like that. She'll call the police and you will go to jail. And the other men in the system will prosecute you, even if they know you didn't do anything wrong. You see, this just proves to the woman how much more committed they are and how much more worthy they are of her approval and affection. That's the system we're living in. Listen to the tone, like when a mother is upset with her son. What does the tone suggest? I'm not saying that all mothers are bad mothers. That's not what I'm saying. But there comes a time when she starts using emotional manipulation in this vicious, instinctual way. Understand further, this is the context of our social interaction. You can't have an identity outside of that. Not if you're, in a female world. You can have an identity outside of that unto yourself, with other men, maybe at the workplace, but not really, because the female affection and approval has come to dominate the workplace, right? I recently did video on the great feminization an article written by a woman. And the women are dominating. They represent the majority of students in college. They represent the majority of people graduating from medical school, from legal school, from, law departments. They take over. It's human resources taking over the company. You've got this company, I don't care. You're in sales, you're building widgets, you make boats, doesn't matter. And now the human resources department comes in and says, the most important thing here at this company is that nobody's feelings get hurt, that we don't offend anybody. As a matter of fact, we're going to let men play in women's sports because we don't want to risk offending it. So the entire function of the company, of the team, becomes appeasing the emotions of the women. And they're not going to let go of this game. I'm saying to you that they understand what they're doing, even when the men do not. I believe it's taken me close to a lifetime to kind of understand this. I think that we all understand this just like in an interaction way, but we don't understand that there's this bigger game going on, okay, with this idea of toxic masculinity. In other words, most mothers could say to their sons, you're demonstrating toxic masculinity. No problem. It's a societal thing. They can sit there and watch TV or a movie, any sort of media, and it's just blasted away. And it's accepted. They don't say, turn this shit off. No, they enjoy it, right? The stupid, oafish man who just jumps through hoops and always makes mistakes. The wife and the children laugh at him. He makes more mistakes and they throw him out. Maybe if he subjugates himself low enough, they'll take him back. Women love that story. How do you feel about it? How do you feel about watching movies where men are portrayed as garbage? And you're going to sit along and smile and joke and laugh with the whole thing. And when she says, wasn't that a great movie? You're going to have to say, yeah, it sure was. A long time ago, I was dating a girl. Actually, she was living with me. And it was time to go see a movie. And she wanted to go see Sleeping with the Enemy. It had just come out. But I had heard that Sleeping with the Enemy was not a very good movie, but that Silence of the Lambs was, in fact, a very good movie. So I was like, no, I want to go see Silence of the Lambs. Now, all I'm suggesting is that she wanted to go see a movie where the man was portrayed as evil, as the enemy. And I wanted to go see a movie where, just a good movie. Notice how all of your movies portray men in this way. And the ones that don't are considered complete fantasy. How is a young man going to grow up? What kind of an attitude is he going to have growing up in that environment? Well, he's going to supplicate himself. He's going to bend over backwards to win her approval. And if he doesn't have any insight that there might be something more for him in life beyond fulfilling his biological urges and societal group approval, he's in for a lot of trouble. And most of you guys know that. It's torturous. And she's really not that pretty. The individual woman that, you actually meet up with and get together with, she's not the princess. That's an idealized thing in your mind. She's a real life human being. And she's playing a game, and men are the addicts. And the price they pay to get the thing that they want is their actual identity. They have to give it up. That's why it's all about sacrifice. That's why it's all about, hey, how you doing? I'm okay. And it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter how you really are. As a man, you are obligated to say that you're okay. You better not complain. Now, some of the younger men in this system who have just grown up in this system, they're used to women being in charge. Understand that it is the female sensibilities that dominate all of this. Okay. So these young men think that this is just the natural way. It's disgusting. You can see it in the politicians. You can hear it in their voices when they're standing up and making these emotional appeals and being very apologetic and very sensitive and very, compromising, because they just want to make sure that nobody gets their feelings hurt. And it's disgusting for me to listen to. It's disgusting for any strong man to listen to a man speak and behave like. Right? And yet, that's exactly how you have to, it's exactly what's expected. Talking about mostly Democratic politicians is what I'm talking about, woke politicians, and I certainly hope that I, haven't offended any of the women or, any of the other races or any of the other many genders, because you guys can have as many genders as you want. And I certainly don't want to step on any of those toes. So this becomes the most important thing that the man pursues. Is that a man's way? Is he going to become strong? Is he going to develop dignity, self-worth, pride? We talk about self-worth. In order to have self-worth, you have to have a self. And how can you have a self if you've sold it, you've compromised it, you've betrayed it to win the affection of the imaginary beautiful woman to fulfill this biological urge of yours. They've hijacked the purpose and function of human life. I could go a lot deeper into this. Okay? I'm going to leave it at that for now. If you want to hear more, support my channel on Cash App. Find my Cash App donation link, click on it, make a donation to the channel, and I'll make more content. Let me know what you think about this in the comments section below. Please like, share, comment, subscribe, donate. Join me again, Howard Dare, as I plan to have more content for you. Thank you, MGTOW.